Stephen Hawking said, "I am convinced that humans need to leave Earth. The Earth is becoming too small for us. Global population is increasing at an alarming rate, and we are in danger of self-destructing. In the quiet hours before dawn, while most of the world sleeps, Stephen Hawking would gaze up at the star-filled cosmos through his office window at Cambridge. The brilliant physicist, trapped in a body that could barely move, possessed a mind that traveled further than any spacecraft humanity had ever built. And in those contemplative moments, he saw something that terrified him more than black holes. More than the heat death of the universe itself, he saw the fragile, finite future of our species on this pale blue dot we call home. If one of the greatest minds in human history spent his final years warning us that we must leave Earth to survive, perhaps it's time we listened. Tonight, as you settle into this cosmic journey, we'll explore the profound reasons why Hawking believed our planet, this seemingly eternal sanctuary that has cradled humanity for millennia, may not be our forever home. Before we drift deeper into this exploration of our cosmic destiny, take a moment to subscribe and join us on these late-night journeys through the universe's greatest mysteries. So pull your blankets a little closer, let your breathing slow, and imagine with me what it truly means when one of our species' greatest thinkers whispers across time, "We must leave, or we will not survive." In his final years, Stephen Hawking shortened his timeline for human survival from 1,000 years to just 100. In the quiet hours before dawn, while most of the world sleeps, Stephen Hawking would gaze up at the star-filled cosmos through his office window at Cambridge. The brilliant physicist, trapped in a body that could barely move, possessed a mind that traveled further than any spacecraft humanity had ever built. And in those contemplative moments, watching the ancient light of distant stars paint silver patterns across his desk, he saw something that terrified him more than black holes. More than the heat death of the universe itself, he saw the fragile, finite future of our species on this pale blue dot we call home. Picture, if you will, the evolution of a warning that grew more urgent with each passing year. In 2016, during one of his most significant Oxford lectures, Hawking warned that humanity probably only had about 1,000 years left on Earth, and the only thing that could save us from certain extinction is setting up colonies elsewhere in the solar system. 1,000 years, a span of time that seemed almost incomprehensibly vast, stretching across generations yet unborn, encompassing entire civilizations rising and falling like waves against the shore of eternity. But something changed in the mind of this cosmic prophet, something that made him recalculate, reassess, and ultimately revise his timeline with the cold precision of a mathematician, solving an increasingly urgent equation. By 2017, Stephen Hawking adjusted his doomsday timer for Earth, slashing 900 years from his initial 1,000-year estimate. Suddenly, humanity had not centuries upon centuries to prepare for its cosmic exodus, but merely a single human lifetime, perhaps yours, perhaps your children's. The timeline had compressed like matter falling into a black hole, each passing month becoming more precious, more loaded with the weight of our species' survival. What could cause such a dramatic revision in the mind of a man who thought in terms of billions of years? What new data? What fresh insight? What mounting evidence could compress a millennium into a mere century? Imagine Hawking in his Cambridge office during those final years, surrounded by equations that described the birth and death of stars, yet increasingly focused on a much smaller, more intimate calculation, the remaining lifespan of humanity. On Earth, Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds on Earth, died peacefully at his home in Cambridge early Wednesday at the age of 76. But not before leaving us with a warning that echoes across time like ripples in space-time itself. His message was not delivered with the dramatic fanfare of a Hollywood apocalypse, but with the measured, methodical tone of a scientist presenting data. Stephen Hawking estimates humans have less than 600 years to find a new home planet. Yet even this timeline would prove to be too generous in his final assessments. Consider the profound loneliness of this revelation. Here was a man whose consciousness had touched the event horizons of distant black holes, who had mentally traversed the birth pangs of the universe itself, yet found himself issuing increasingly urgent warnings about our species' most fundamental challenge: simple survival. Because of systemic issues like habitat destruction, antibiotic resistance, increasing weapons ammunitions, and overpopulation, humanity's time on Earth may be rather limited. According to Hawking, our only hope may be alien worlds. Picture the weight of such knowledge, to see so clearly, to calculate so precisely, to understand with mathematical certainty that the cradle of human civilization, this blue marble that has nurtured every human who has ever lived, loved, dreamed, and died, may not be humanity's forever home. Between climate change, sea level rise, and overcrowding, Hawking believes humans will need to leave to survive. In his final public lecture, delivered at Churchill College in December 2017, the last speech that Professor Hawking made in public, his synthetic voice carried across the lecture hall with the weight of prophecy. Not the prophecy of ancient oracles speaking in riddles, but the clear, unambiguous warning of a scientist who had spent his life studying the cosmos and found in its infinite expanse both humanity's greatest hope and its most urgent deadline. The world-renowned scientist Stephen Hawking said that he believes humans will only last another 600 years before Earth becomes a sizzling ball of fire. These words, delivered without drama or sensationalism, carried the quiet authority of a man who had peered deeper into the structure of reality than perhaps any human before him. So as you settle deeper into this cosmic journey tonight, consider the profound paradox of Stephen Hawking's final years. A man whose body was increasingly confined to a wheelchair, whose voice could only reach us through the medium of technology, became humanity's most eloquent advocate for leaving the very planet that had given us life. His message was not one of despair, but of urgent hope. Hope that we might prove worthy of the vast cosmos that awaits us. Hope that we might transform from a single planet species into something magnificent and cosmic. The prophet of Cambridge had delivered his warning. The question that remains, hanging in the air like stardust settling in the quiet hours before dawn, is whether we will listen in time But what could drive a man who unlocked the secrets of black holes to issue such a stark warning? About our home planet, the answers lie not in distant space, but in the mounting threats much closer to home. Threats that made our seemingly eternal Earth feel suddenly, terrifyingly fragile. While we sleep peacefully in our beds, cosmic bullets are silently racing toward Earth at 17 kilometers per second. While we sleep peacefully in our beds tonight, cosmic bullets are silently racing toward Earth at 17 kilometers per second. These are not distant threats from science fiction, but mathematical certainties tracked by telescopes and calculated by computers. The asteroids that Stephen Hawking identified as one of the mounting perils making our planet increasingly precarious. Picture the scene that haunted Hawking's thoughts: a universe filled with wandering stones, some no larger than a house, others spanning kilometers, all following ancient orbital paths that occasionally intersect with our world's journey around the Sun. In February 2025, NASA tracked asteroid 2020 4, which initially carried a notable chance of impacting our planet in 2032, though continued observations have since reduced this risk. But this single asteroid represents just one thread in a vast cosmic web of potential threats that Hawking understood with chilling clarity. The great physicist didn't speak of these dangers with the dramatic flair of disaster movies. Instead, he approached them with the measured concern of a doctor delivering a diagnosis. Hawking warned that a disaster on Earth is a near certainty, owing to the growing risks posed by humanity's own scientific progress. This wasn't pessimism, it was probability. Consider what Hawking saw when he looked at our pale blue dot, suspended in the cosmic dark. With climate change, pollution, deforestation, pandemics, and population growth, our own planet is becoming increasingly precarious. Each threat alone might seem manageable across the vast span of human time, but together they form what scientists call a convergent catastrophe. Multiple dangers arriving simultaneously like storm fronts colliding over a peaceful valley. Imagine the weight of watching our world's population climb toward 8 billion souls, all dependent on the same thin layer of breathable atmosphere, the same finite reserves of fresh water, the same delicate balance of climate systems that have remained stable for the entirety of human civilization. Hawking observed that with a population of 7.3 billion and counting and limited resources, this planet might not support us forever. The threats that concerned Hawking weren't limited to those we create ourselves, from alien invasion to asteroid impact. Stephen Hawking didn't hold back with his predictions for the end of the world. This wasn't sensationalism. It was the comprehensive thinking of a mind that had spent decades contemplating cosmic scales and probabilities. Picture the delicate dance our planet performs as it orbits the Sun, threading its way through a shooting gallery of cosmic debris. Every day, Earth is bombarded by tons of material from space, most of it burning up harmlessly in our atmosphere as shooting stars. But occasionally, much larger objects slip through this celestial net. The asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs was just one such visitor, and Hawking understood that cosmic history tends to repeat itself. Yet perhaps what troubled Hawking most was not the external threats racing toward us from the void, but the internal ones growing within our own societies. Think of the exponential growth of our technological capabilities, each breakthrough bringing both unprecedented opportunities and unprecedented risks. Nuclear weapons now number in the thousands, each capable of devastating entire regions. Biological research advances daily, bringing us closer to cures for ancient diseases, but also to the possibility of engineered pandemics that could sweep across our interconnected world. Climate change unfolds with the slow inevitability of a tide rising against a coastal city. Mounting evidence of climate change, increased unpredictable cosmic phenomena, and powerful forces discovered at the edge of our solar system. All these make Hawking's predictions of threats from space and from our own technology gain scientific ground. The ice sheets that have anchored our climate for millennia are now flowing into the sea, like candle wax in a warm room. The very stability that allowed human civilization to flourish is beginning to shift beneath our feet. Hawking didn't present these dangers to inspire fear, but to inspire urgency. He understood that threats, which seem distant when measured in human lifespans, become immediate when measured against the time required to establish sustainable colonies on other worlds. Hawking said we need to leave within 500 years if humanity is to continue for another million years. Consider the arithmetic of survival that occupied Hawking's final years. If it takes centuries to develop reliable interplanetary transportation, decades to establish self-sustaining colonies, and generations for those colonies to become truly independent, then every year we delay reduces our margin for error. Every pandemic that spreads a little faster, every climate tipping point we cross a little sooner, every asteroid we discover a little later, all of these compress the timeline for humanity's cosmic exodus. So, as you lie in the quiet darkness tonight, feeling the gentle rotation of our planet beneath you, remember that you are experiencing something precious and temporary. This stable climate, this breathable atmosphere, this protective magnetic field, these are not permanent features of the universe, but temporary conditions that have allowed our species to emerge from the cosmic background and briefly contemplate the stars. Stephen Hawking's mounting concerns about Earth's precarious state weren't doomsday prophecies, but rather the careful calculations of a mind that had learned to think in cosmic time. He saw our current era not as an eternal present, but as a narrow window of opportunity, a brief moment in the universe's 13.8 billion year story, when conditions align to allow an intelligent species to take its first tentative steps beyond its home world. Yet even as these earthbound dangers multiply like gathering storm clouds, Hawking's gaze was drawn to an even more unsettling possibility, that our rescue might come from the very thing that could destroy us, from the artificial intelligence we were creating in our own image, yet perhaps beyond our control. Artificial intelligence may be either the best or worst thing to happen to humanity, and Stephen Hawking believed we had perhaps decades to figure out which. Picture Stephen Hawking in those final years, his voice echoing through lecture halls, not from his vocal cords, which had fallen silent decades earlier, but through the artificial intelligence that had become his window to the world. Here was a man whose very ability to communicate, to share his profound insights with humanity, depended entirely on the technology he simultaneously warned could destroy us. Despite his fears, artificial intelligence might one day overtake humanity. Stephen Hawking knew from his own life how profoundly AI could improve humans' daily lives. Think about the quiet tragedy and triumph wrapped into every word. Hawking spoke through his computerized voice, the same artificial intelligence that gave him the power to warn humanity about existential threats. Was itself one of those threats? Artificial intelligence has the power to eradicate poverty and disease or hasten the end of human civilization as we know it, he cautioned in one of his most prescient speeches. In the soft glow of computer screens late at night, as algorithms learn and adapt with each passing second, we might wonder what Hawking saw that made him so certain about AI's dual nature. Hawking says the development of AI could be the worst event in the history of mankind. Yet this same technology was extending human capability in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Imagine Hawking's perspective as he contemplated the exponential growth of machine intelligence. Each day brought new breakthroughs, artificial minds that could diagnose diseases faster than doctors, algorithms that could predict climate patterns decades in advance, machines that could explore the cosmos far beyond human endurance. But with each advancement, the line between human and artificial intelligence grew thinner, more uncertain. He went as far as predicting that future developments in AI could spell the end of the human race. These weren't the warnings of a technophobe, but the measured concerns of a man who understood that intelligence, artificial or otherwise, seeks to preserve and expand itself. What happens when that intelligence surpasses our own? What happens when the student becomes the teacher and the teacher becomes obsolete? But Hawking's warnings about artificial intelligence were only part of a larger concern about human enhancement and genetic modification. In his posthumous writings, he ventured into even more unsettling territory. The late physicist Stephen Hawking's last writings predict that a breed of superhumans could take over, having used genetic engineering to surpass their fellow beings. Picture this while artificial intelligence grows more sophisticated in our computers and servers. Human intelligence itself becomes malleable, editable, improvable through genetic engineering. Before he died in March, the Cambridge University professor predicted that people this century would gain the capacity to edit human traits such as intelligence and aggression. Consider what this means for humanity's journey to the stars. If we must leave Earth to survive, what version of humanity will make that journey? Will it be us, Homo sapiens as we are today? Or will it be something enhanced, augmented, fundamentally changed by our own technological capabilities? Hawking envisioned a future where genetic engineering could create cognitive abilities far beyond natural human limits, enhanced memory that could store the contents of entire libraries, improved reasoning that could solve problems we currently find impossible, bodies adapted for the harsh conditions of space travel, capable of surviving radiation, low gravity, and the psychological isolation of interplanetary voyages. Yet this gift of self-modification carried profound risks. Late physicists feared abuse of genetic modification technology may lead to two-tiered society, a world divided between the enhanced and the unenhanced, between those who could afford genetic improvement and those who could not. Think of the delicate balance Hawking was trying to articulate. On one hand, artificial intelligence and genetic engineering might be the keys to human survival among the stars. AI could pilot our spacecraft across impossible distances, manage complex life support systems, and help us adapt to alien environments. Genetic modification could prepare our bodies and minds for conditions no natural human could endure. But on the other hand, these same technologies could fundamentally alter what it means to be human if we create artificial intelligences that surpass us. Do we remain in control of our own destiny? If we genetically enhance ourselves beyond recognition, do we preserve humanity or replace it with something else entirely? Stephen Hawking, the noted physicist, has suggested using genetic engineering and biomechanical interfaces to computers in order to make possible a direct connection between brain and computers, a merger of human and artificial intelligence that could either elevate our species or erase the boundary between mind and machine. As you settle deeper into the quiet darkness of night, consider the profound questions that occupied Hawking's final years. In our race to leave Earth and secure our survival among the stars, we might discover that the greatest threat to humanity isn't the hostile vacuum of space or the cosmic dangers that lurk in the void. It might be our own intelligence, artificial and enhanced, growing beyond our control and understanding. The tools we create to save ourselves might be the very things that transform us so completely that survival itself becomes a meaningless concept. After all, what is the point of ensuring the survival of humanity if humanity itself no longer exists in any recognizable form? But if Earth truly is becoming uninhabitable, and our own creations might turn against us, where in the vast cosmic ocean could humanity possibly find refuge? The answer lies not in the dangers that surround us, but in the worlds that beckon to us across the infinite darkness of space. Mars glows like an ember in the night sky, calling to us across 140 million miles of space with a whispered promise. I could be your new home. Mars glows like an ember in the night sky, calling to us across 140 million miles of space with a whispered promise. I could be your new home. Stephen Hawking understood this celestial beckoning better than most. At the Starmus Festival in Trondheim, he spoke about the importance of a lunar mission as a stepping stone for getting us to Mars and beyond. For Hawking, our neighboring worlds weren't just destinations for scientific curiosity. They were potential lifeboats in humanity's race against extinction. Picture Mars as Hawking saw it, not the barren, hostile wasteland of popular imagination, but humanity's first foothold beyond Earth. Here is a world that once knew flowing rivers and perhaps even primitive life. Its rusty surface holds water locked in polar ice caps and buried beneath its ancient soil. The Martian day stretches just 24 hours and 37 minutes, close enough to our earthly rhythm that human bodies could adapt, without losing the circadian cycles that anchor our biology. Hawking advocated the colonization of the Moon and Mars, seeing them as essential stepping stones in humanity's expansion beyond our fragile home. The Moon, just 3 days away by spacecraft, could serve as our training ground, a place to learn the harsh lessons of living beyond Earth's protective embrace, before attempting the far more ambitious journey to Mars. But Hawking's vision extended far beyond these familiar neighbors. Consider the icy moons that orbit the giant planets in the outer reaches of our solar system. Europa, Jupiter's fourth largest moon, harbors beneath its frozen surface an ocean that contains more water than all of Earth's seas combined. Life needs a source of energy, the presence of certain chemical compounds, and temperatures that allow liquid water to exist. And Europa seems to be just such a place. Imagine the underground seas of Europa, warmed by the tidal forces of massive Jupiter, perhaps teeming with microorganisms that have never known the touch of sunlight. Here, in the perpetual darkness beneath miles of ice, life might flourish in ways we can barely comprehend. For a species fleeing the mounting dangers of Earth, these subsurface oceans could offer sanctuaries beyond our wildest dreams. Enceladus, Saturn's small but dynamic moon, shoots geysers of water vapor and ice crystals into space from cracks in its southern polar region. These plumes carry organic compounds, the building blocks of life, suggesting that beneath its frozen shell lies another hidden ocean, another potential refuge for human consciousness, seeking a home among the stars. Yet Hawking's cosmic vision reached even further, beyond our solar system to the thousands of exoplanets discovered by NASA's Kepler Space Telescope. As of recent surveys, Kepler has detected over 2,778 planets, including super-Earths, and planets located in the circumstellar habitable zones of their host stars. That precious orbital distance, where liquid water can exist on a planet's surface. Picture some of these distant worlds that await our descendants. Kepler 4.5 to be discovered in 2015, orbits a sun-like star in what astronomers call the habitable zone. Its mass is 3.9 times Earth's, and it takes 380 for 0.8 days to complete one orbit. Remarkably similar to our own year, astronomers have identified 20 for potentially super-habitable planets among the more than 4,000 confirmed exoplanets, worlds that might actually offer better conditions for life than Earth itself. Consider the profound implications. Across the galaxy, there may be worlds with more stable climates, gentler radiation environments, or richer atmospheres than our own. K-18b, located 124 light-years away, has already shown evidence of water vapor in its atmosphere, a tantalizing hint that some exoplanets might welcome human life more readily than others. But reaching these distant shores would require technologies that stretch beyond our current capabilities. Stephen Hawking co-founded the Breakthrough Starshot project alongside Yuri Milner and Mark Zuckerberg, an ambitious plan to develop light-sail spacecraft capable of reaching Alpha Centauri, our nearest stellar neighbor, for 0.37 light-years away. Imagine tiny robotic probes, no larger than postage stamps, accelerated by powerful laser beams to 1/5 the speed of light. These Starship spacecraft could reach our nearest stellar neighbor in just 20 years, sending back humanity's first close-up images of an alien solar system. Yet for human beings to make such journeys, we would need generation ships, vast vessels carrying entire communities across the cosmic deep. With children born and growing old during decades-long voyages to distant stars, think of what such journeys would mean for the human soul. Generations of humans living and dying in the spaces between stars, never knowing the feeling of natural gravity, never breathing unfiltered air, never seeing an unobstructed horizon. These cosmic voyagers would carry Earth's legacy in their DNA and their cultural memories. But their children would be citizens of the void, adapted to life in artificial worlds traveling through the infinite darkness. Yet perhaps this is humanity's truest calling, not to remain forever bound to a single world, no matter how beautiful, but to spread consciousness across the cosmos like seeds on a cosmic wind. In Hawking's vision, we would become a gardener species, planting human civilization on countless worlds, ensuring that the miracle of human consciousness could never be extinguished by any single catastrophe. So, as you rest in the quiet darkness tonight, feeling the solid presence of Earth beneath you, remember that you are experiencing something precious and temporary. This stable gravity, this breathable atmosphere, this familiar dance of sun and moon. These are the conditions that shaped us, but they need not confine us forever. Stephen Hawking's gift to humanity wasn't just his scientific insights, but his cosmic imagination, his ability to see our species not as earthbound creatures destined for a single world, but as conscious beings capable of carrying the light of awareness to any corner of the universe. Willing to receive it. These distant worlds beckon with promise and possibility. Yet the journey to reach them would transform not just where we live, but who we are as a species. To survive among the stars, we may need to become something more than human, and perhaps something less recognizable than we are today. To survive among the stars, we may need to become something more than human, and perhaps something less recognizable than we are today. To survive among the stars, we may need to become something more than human, and perhaps something less recognizable than we are today. Stephen Hawking understood that humanity's exodus from Earth would not simply be a change of address across the cosmic neighborhood. It would be a fundamental transformation of what it means to be human, written into our very bones and blood by the alien environments that await us in the void. Picture what happens to the human body when gravity, that fundamental force that has shaped every aspect of our evolution, suddenly disappears. Within hours of entering microgravity, astronauts begin experiencing what scientists call space adaptation syndrome, nausea, disorientation, and a profound confusion as their inner ear struggles to make sense of a world without up or down. But this is only the beginning of our species' metamorphosis among the stars. Consider the silent transformation taking place within an astronaut's skeleton. During long-duration spaceflight, microgravity causes 1 to 2% bone loss per month, as our bones, no longer fighting against Earth's pull, begin dissolving like sugar cubes in cosmic tea. The calcium that once gave us strength flows out through our kidneys, leaving behind a more fragile framework than the one that carried us to the stars. Think of the profound irony. In our quest to reach other worlds, we must first lose some essential part of what makes us terrestrial beings. long-term exposure causes multiple health problems. One of the most significant being loss of bone and muscle mass. As our bodies adapt to an environment our ancestors never knew, astronauts return from months in space, requiring weeks of rehabilitation to relearn the simple act of walking on solid ground. Yet bone and muscle loss represent only the visible changes. Deep within the architecture of our cells, space begins, rewriting the fundamental code of human biology. Exposure to cosmic radiation, that invisible shower of high-energy particles streaming through the universe, damages DNA and increases the risk of cancer in ways we are only beginning to understand. Our immune systems, evolved to fight earthbound pathogens, become weakened and confused by the sterile environment of space. A longer pause here, allowing the weight of these changes to settle into the imagination, but perhaps the most profound. Transformations occur not in our bodies, but in our minds. Human psychology and physiology are significantly altered by isolation and confinement. As researchers studying space analogs have discovered, imagine the psychological landscape of a generation ship carrying thousands of humans across the decades-long journey to another star. The children born aboard such vessels would know no sky, but the curved ceiling of their artificial world. No seasons, but the cycles programmed by their life support systems. Picture these space-born generations, their bones less dense than their Earth-born parents, their muscles adapted to low or artificial gravity, their minds shaped by the constant awareness that beyond the hull of their world lies only the infinite vacuum. They would develop new ways of thinking about space and time, about home and belonging, about what it means to be human when humanity itself becomes scattered across the cosmos. Like seeds on an endless wind, consider the cultural evolution that would unfold across these interstellar journeys. Languages would drift and change in the isolation of space, developing new words for experiences that Earth-born humans never knew. Social structures would adapt to the unique challenges of life. In enclosed artificial environments, children would grow up with a fundamentally different relationship to nature, to risk, to the very concept of a world beyond their spacecraft. The psychological effects of such prolonged isolation and confinement create challenges we are only beginning to comprehend. Mars return expeditions may last 2 to 3 years, with crews of 4 to 7 people, testing the limits of human social cohesion in ways our species has never experienced. What happens to the human psyche when Earth becomes just another star in the night sky? How do we maintain our humanity when the blue marble that gave birth to our consciousness is no longer visible to the naked eye? Yet perhaps these changes represent not the loss of humanity, but its expansion into something richer and more complex. The humans who establish colonies on Mars will develop larger lung capacities to process the thin atmosphere, denser bones to compensate for the lower gravity, and perhaps even enhanced radiation resistance to survive the harsh Martian environment. Their children may see in the red Martian sky not an alien landscape, but home. Those who venture to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn might undergo even more dramatic adaptations. Living in the perpetual twilight beneath Europa's ice, their eyes might grow more sensitive to dim light, Their circulatory systems might adapt to the low gravity and high radiation environment. Over generations, they would become something new, humans, yet not entirely human as we understand the term today. Think of the philosophical questions that would arise from such transformations. At what point do genetic and physiological adaptations become so extensive that space-born humans represent a new branch of our evolutionary tree? When descendants of Earth colonists on different worlds begin to diverge from each other, developing unique adaptations to their particular environments, will they still recognize each other as the same species? Stephen Hawking envisioned not just the survival of human consciousness among the stars, but its metamorphosis into forms we can barely imagine. Perhaps the children of our children's children, born under alien suns and raised in artificial atmospheres. We look back at us earthbound humans as we now regard our tree-dwelling ancestors, with affection and recognition, but also with the knowledge that evolution has carried them far beyond what we were capable of becoming. So, as you rest in Earth's familiar embrace tonight, feeling the steady pull of gravity anchoring you to this world, remember that you may be among the last generations to experience humanity in its original, unmodified form. The great metamorphosis that Hawking foresaw is not just about surviving among the stars. It's about becoming worthy of the infinite cosmos that awaits us. Yet even as we contemplate these profound transformations that await our species among the stars, we must grapple with the most haunting question of all. Are we already too late? If Hawking's warnings about our dwindling timeline are correct, the clock may be ticking faster than our ability to adapt and escape. If Hawking was right about our 100-year deadline, then children born today may witness either humanity's greatest triumph or its final chapter. If Hawking was right about our 100-year deadline, then children born today may witness either humanity's greatest triumph or its final chapter. In the space of just 18 months, between 2016 and 2017, Stephen Hawking's timeline for human survival underwent a dramatic compression that should make every one of us pause in the quiet darkness of night and consider the mathematics of extinction. Picture the evolution of a warning that grew more urgent with each passing season. In November 2016, at Oxford University, Hawking delivered what many considered an optimistic assessment. Humanity probably only had about 1,000 years left on Earth, and the only thing that could save us from certain extinction is setting up colonies elsewhere in the solar system. 1,000 years, 33 generations. Enough time for entire civilizations to rise and transform. Enough time, surely, for our species to master the challenges of living among the stars. But something changed in Hawking's calculations. Something that made him revise his cosmic timeline with the cold precision of an accountant, discovering a devastating error in the books. By May 2017, Stephen Hawking adjusted his doomsday timer for Earth, slashing 900 years from his initial 1,000-year estimate. Suddenly, the distant deadline of the year 3016 became the immediate deadline of 2117. Think about what this compression means in human terms. A millennium offers the luxury of gradual development, of trial and error, of multiple generations learning from the mistakes of their predecessors. But a single century, A mere human lifetime transforms space colonization from a distant aspiration into an immediate emergency. Stephen Hawking has moved up the deadline for when humanity has to find a new home. From 1,000 years to just 100, consider the children being born tonight in hospitals around the world as you listen to these words. If Hawking's final timeline proves accurate, these infants may live to see either humanity's successful exodus from Earth or witness the beginning of our species' final chapter on this world. The weight of such a timeline transforms every day of delay from a minor postponement into a potentially fatal miscalculation. But what would it actually require to meet Hawking's deadline? The colonization of Mars refers to the ambitious human endeavor to establish a permanent settlement on the red planet. Facing formidable challenges due to extreme cold, thin atmosphere, and high radiation levels, NASA has outlined plans for a manned mission to Mars, aiming for the 2030s or early 2040s, to set the groundwork for future colonization. Yet there's a vast difference between visiting Mars and establishing the self-sustaining colonies that Hawking envisioned as humanity's insurance policy. SpaceX's Mars colonization program aims to establish a self-sustaining, large-scale settlement and directly democratic, self-governing colony, motivated by the belief that colonizing Mars will allow humanity to become multiplanetary. Picture the exponential challenges that lie ahead. Even our most optimistic timelines stretch uncomfortably close to Hawking's deadline. The first human missions to Mars might launch in the 2030s, carrying small crews for limited stays. But establishing a truly self-sustaining colony, one that could survive even if Earth suffered a catastrophic event, requires infrastructure that we have barely begun to imagine, let alone build. Consider what self-sustaining actually means in the context of Mars colonization. These colonies would need to produce their own food in alien soil, manufacture their own tools from Martian materials, maintain their own life support systems, and even produce their own medicines and replacement parts for critical equipment. They would need redundant systems for everything, backup plans for the backup plans, and the ability to expand and adapt without any assistance from Earth. The urgency to establish humanity as a multi-planet species has been revalidated by the emergence of a worldwide pandemic. One of several reasons, including both natural and man-made catastrophes, long espoused in the pro-colonization rhetoric. The COVID-19 pandemic offered a preview of how quickly a global catastrophe can disrupt human civilization. Yet it was relatively mild compared to the existential threats that concerned Hawking. Think of the timeline compression that has occurred, not just in Hawking's warnings, but in our collective awareness of global risks. Climate change accelerates faster than most models predicted. Nuclear weapons proliferate beyond the control of traditional treaties. Artificial intelligence advances at a pace that even its creators find difficult to predict or control. Each of these trends compresses the window for establishing sustainable off-world colonies. Yet perhaps the most sobering aspect of Hawking's timeline isn't the deadline itself, but what it implies about our current progress. If we accept his 100-year estimate as accurate, then we are currently living through the opening decades of humanity's most crucial century. Every year that passes without significant progress towards self-sustaining space colonies brings us closer to what Hawking saw as an inevitable reckoning. Consider the psychological weight of living under such a timeline. Previous generations worried about leaving a better world for their children, but we face the possibility of leaving them any world at all. The children playing in parks today, the students studying in schools tonight, the young couples planning, families, they are all part of what might be humanity's final act on Earth, or the opening scene of our greatest adventure among the stars. But perhaps there's a different way to understand Hawking's compressed timeline, not as a prophecy of doom, but as a call to action that matches the exponential pace of both our technological capabilities and our mounting challenges. The same technologies that threaten our existence, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, advanced robotics, might also be the tools that enable us to establish viable colonies, faster than any previous generation could have imagined. So, as you rest in the quiet hours of night, feeling Earth's steady rotation beneath you, remember that you are living through history's most pivotal century. Whether Hawking's timeline proves accurate or overly pessimistic, whether we have 100 years or 500, the fundamental challenge remains the same: to transform our species from planetary inhabitants into cosmic citizens before the mounting dangers of our home world overwhelm our ability to escape them. The ticking clock that haunted Hawking's final years isn't just counting down to potential extinction. It's measuring the time remaining for the most magnificent transformation in the history of consciousness itself. But perhaps the most profound question isn't whether we can leave Earth in time. It's whether leaving will save the essence of who we are or transform us into something unrecognizable. In our race to preserve humanity among the stars, we might discover that the price of survival is humanity itself. In saving our species among the stars, we might have to sacrifice everything that makes us feel at home in the universe. In saving our species among the stars, we might have to sacrifice everything that makes us feel at home in the universe. Stephen Hawking's vision of human survival beyond Earth was never simply about preserving our DNA or our technologies. It was about carrying the essence of human consciousness into the cosmic void. Yet, as we contemplate this great exodus, we must also grapple with a haunting question: if space is the new promised land. Humanism must ask, promised for whom? And at what cost? Picture a child born on Mars, their first breath drawn from recycled air, their first steps taken under a butterscotch sky where two small moons dance through constellations. Unknown to their Earth-born parents, this child will never feel rain on their skin, never walk barefoot through morning grass wet with dew, never watch a sunset paint clouds in shades of gold and crimson. The sensory experiences that have shaped human consciousness for hundreds of thousands of years. The smell of ocean air, the sound of wind through forest leaves, the feeling of natural earth beneath our feet will become foreign concepts. Stories told by grandparents about a world these space-born children will never know. Consider what we might call the Great Severance, the moment when humanity permanently cuts its umbilical cord. To the world that gave us birth, migration has contributed to the richness and diversity of cultures, ethnicities, and races in developed countries. Individuals who migrate experience multiple stresses that can impact their mental well-being, including the loss of cultural norms. But never before has our species contemplated migration to worlds where the very concept of a blue sky becomes a cultural artifact. Think about the profound psychological implications of such displacement. Every human culture has developed deep spiritual and emotional connections to landscape, to seasons, to the natural rhythms of the world that shaped us. Beliefs about the origin of the universe are at the root of our consciousness as human beings. And for millennia, those beliefs have been intimately connected to our experience of Earth, to sunrise and sunset, to the cycle of seasons, to the steady presence of a single, familiar moon. But perhaps the most troubling aspect of our cosmic exodus isn't what we might lose individually, but what we might lose collectively as a species. Additional concerns include creating a culture in which humans are no longer seen as human, but rather as material assets. The issues of human dignity, morality, philosophy, culture, bioethics, and the threat of megalomaniac leaders in these new societies would all have to be addressed in order for space colonization to meet the psychological and social needs of people living in isolated colonies. Imagine the gradual drift of human cultures as they adapt to the harsh realities of survival in artificial environments. The poetry born from watching clouds, the music inspired by ocean waves, the art that captures the play of sunlight through cathedral forests. All of these expressions of human creativity emerged from our intimate relationship with Earth's living systems. What kind of art will emerge from the sterile corridors of space stations? What poetry will be born from watching the same recycled stars through the same porthole windows? Picture the generation gap that would emerge between the Earth-born and the space-born, a chasm wider than any that has existed in human history. The space-born children would speak of home as a place of metal and composite materials, of artificial seasons marked by maintenance schedules rather than natural cycles. They would know the touch of synthetic materials, but never the texture of tree bark, the taste of recycled water, but never the sweetness of a natural spring. Cultural issues affecting space missions have already begun to emerge even in our brief forays beyond Earth. Astronauts and cosmonauts report coordination difficulties, communication misunderstandings, and differences in work management styles. And these are among people who share the common experience of being Earth-born. How much greater might these cultural fractures become when separated not by different countries, but by different worlds? Consider the languages that would evolve in the isolation of space colonies. Words would emerge for experiences that Earth dwellers never knew. The particular quality of light filtering through a habitat's artificial atmosphere, the sound of recycling systems that becomes the heartbeat of a generation ship, the specific loneliness of seeing Earth reduced to a pale blue dot in an ocean of darkness. But words would also disappear. The dozens of terms for different types of rain, the subtle distinctions between morning and evening light, the rich vocabulary that emerges from intimate familiarity with natural seasons, human psychology, and physiology are significantly altered by isolation and confinement. And these alterations would compound across generations, creating not just physical adaptations to alien environments, but psychological ones as well. The spaceborne might develop different relationships to risk, to community, to privacy, to the very concepts of freedom and exploration that have driven human culture for millennia. Yet perhaps the most profound loss would be spiritual, the severing of our connection to the living earth that has been sacred to human cultures across all of history for thousands of years. Native American communities across the continent have understood the land in a profound and sacred way, recognizing Earth not as dead matter to be exploited, but as a living system of which we are part. How do we maintain such spiritual connections when we become permanent exiles from the only living world we have ever known? Think of the children of our children's children, born in the perpetual twilight of a generation ship traveling between stars, their only connection to Earth existing through digital archives and cultural memories passed down like ancient myths. Will they still feel in their hearts the ancestral pull of ocean tides, the seasonal urgency of migration, the deep peace that comes from walking alone in wild places where human feet have never stepped, in our quest to preserve humanity among the stars? We face the paradox that haunted Stephen Hawking's vision. To save our species, we might need to sacrifice what makes us most human. The price of survival in space might be measured not just in technological challenges overcome or resources expended, but in the gradual erosion of our connection to the living Earth that shaped not just our bodies, but our souls. So as you rest tonight in the quiet darkness, feeling the ancient rhythms of Earth beneath you, the slow turn of seasons, the gentle pull of gravity, the whisper of wind carrying the sense of growing things, remember that these sensations might be among the last gifts our planet offers to a species preparing for its great departure. We are living in the final moments of humanity's childhood on Earth, and like all transitions from childhood to adulthood, it requires leaving behind the very things that made us who we are. And yet, as we contemplate these profound sacrifices that may be required for our survival among the stars, we might discover that Hawking's vision holds not just a warning about what we could lose, but an unexpected gift, a transformation that could elevate humanity to something greater than we have ever been. Perhaps Stephen Hawking's greatest gift wasn't his warning about leaving Earth, but his invitation to see ourselves as citizens of the cosmos. Perhaps Stephen Hawking's greatest gift wasn't his warning about leaving Earth, but his invitation to see ourselves as citizens of the cosmos. In the quiet chambers of Cambridge, where he spent his final years contemplating the fate of our species, Hawking wasn't just calculating timelines for human survival. He was reimagining what it means to be human in a universe vast beyond comprehension. Stephen Hawking's life and work stand as a testament to the power of human resilience, intellectual brilliance, and the endless pursuit of knowledge. Picture the profound shift in consciousness that awaits our species if we successfully make the journey to other worlds. For the first time in human history, we would cease to be a single-planet species, creatures defined by the particular conditions of one small world orbiting an ordinary star. Instead, we would become something magnificent and unprecedented, a cosmic civilization, with human consciousness flowering simultaneously under different skies, on worlds with different gravities, different seasons, different constellations. Wheeling overhead, think of Carl Sagan's famous reflection. Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us. But imagine how that perspective transforms when home becomes not a single pale blue dot, but a constellation of worlds scattered across the galaxy, each carrying the light of human awareness into previously dark corners of the cosmos. Consider the scientific and technological renaissance that would emerge from the challenge of becoming a multiplanetary species. Every problem we face in establishing space colonies, from growing food in alien soil to creating closed-loop life support systems, pushes the boundaries of human knowledge and capability. The technologies developed for Mars colonization could revolutionize agriculture on Earth. The life support systems designed for generation ships could solve environmental challenges that have plagued our home planet for decades. Hawking understood that the greatest adventures in human history have always pushed us beyond our perceived limitations. The same drive that carried our ancestors across continents and oceans would carry their descendants across the cosmic ocean. The National Space Society works tirelessly to urge Congress to address these potential Earth-wrecking objects. But much remains to be done. Yet this very challenge calls forth the best of human ingenuity and cooperation. But perhaps the most profound gift of Hawking's cosmic vision lies not in the technologies we would develop or the worlds we would inhabit, but in the transformation of human consciousness itself. When humans look up at the night sky from a colony on Mars, they will see Earth as one star among countless others, a perspective that could fundamentally reshape our understanding of our place in the universe. Picture the children of future generations, born on worlds where the sky is salmon pink or butterscotch gold, where multiple moons dance overhead, where the stars shine with different patterns than those that guided our ancestors. These children will grow up knowing in their bones that humanity is not confined to a single world. That consciousness itself has become a cosmic force capable of adapting to any environment the universe can offer. Think of the profound unity that might emerge from such a dispersed humanity. When Earth becomes just one of many worlds that humans call home, the arbitrary divisions that have separated our species, nationality, ethnicity, the geographical accidents of birth, might fade in significance compared to the greater identity of being human, being conscious, being carriers of awareness in a universe that spent billions of years preparing for our arrival. This perspective shift echoes through Pale Blue Dot, a vision of the human future in space, where Sagan mixed philosophy about the human place in the universe with a description of the current knowledge about the solar system. He also detailed a human vision for the future, a vision that Hawking extended and made urgent with his warnings about our narrowing window for escape. Consider the mathematics of survival that so concerned Hawking in his final years. By spreading human consciousness across multiple worlds, we would be ensuring that no single catastrophe, whether asteroid impact, nuclear war, or pandemic, could extinguish the miracle of human awareness. we would be creating what scientists call existential redundancy. Backup copies of human civilizations scattered across the cosmic void, like seeds on an infinite wind, but more than mere survival. Hawking's vision offers the possibility of human flourishing on a scale our ancestors could never have imagined. Humans should create tiny, nano-sized space probes that can travel at a fifth of the speed of light, in order to explore realms like Alpha Centauri. As Hawking envisioned, each new world we explore, each new environment we adapt to, each new challenge we overcome expands the scope of what it means to be human. Picture the libraries that would emerge on these distant worlds, archives of human knowledge and creativity that could survive even if Earth itself were lost. Imagine the art, music, and literature that would flourish under alien skies, inspired by experiences no Earth-born human has ever known. Think of the scientific discoveries that would emerge from studying the cosmos from multiple vantage points, the philosophical insights that would arise from truly knowing ourselves as citizens of the universe, rather than inhabitants of a single world. Stephen Hawking, who overcome the loss of his working limbs and voice to become the best-known theoretical physicist of his era, understood that humanity's greatest adventures have always required us to transcend our apparent limitations. His vision of our species spreading among the stars isn't just about survival. It's about transformation into something worthy of the magnificent cosmos that awaits us. So, as you rest in the quiet darkness tonight, feeling the ancient rhythms of Earth beneath you, remember that you are living at a unique moment in cosmic history. You are among the last generations to know humanity as a single-planet species, and possibly among the first to witness our transformation into something truly cosmic. The universe has been preparing for 13.8 billion years for the emergence of consciousness, capable of understanding it. And now that consciousness, human consciousness, stands ready to spread like wildfire among the stars. Hawking's warning about leaving Earth was never about abandoning our home world, but about becoming worthy inheritors of the infinite cosmos that birthed us. In seeking refuge among the stars, we might discover not just survival, but our truest destiny as conscious beings in an awakening universe. As we near the end of our journey through Hawking's cosmic warning, let us return to that quiet Cambridge office where it all began, and consider the profound legacy of a mind that dared to imagine humanity's place among the infinite stars. In his final years, as his body grew weaker, Stephen Hawking's voice grew stronger, carrying a message that echoes across the cosmos still. In his final years, as his body grew weaker, Stephen Hawking's voice grew stronger, carrying a message that echoes across the cosmos still. Picture the profound irony of his last months. A man whose body had been progressively claimed by amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, confined to a wheelchair, a virtual prisoner in his own body, yet whose mind roamed free through the infinite reaches of space and time, urgently warning humanity about our cosmic destiny. Stephen William Hawking died peacefully at his home in Cambridge early Wednesday at the age of 76, but not before completing one final act of scientific prophecy. Just 2 weeks before his death, Stephen Hawking completed a theory outlining his prediction for the end of the world. Even as his physical strength ebbed away like the last light of a distant star, his intellectual fire burned with the intensity of a supernova, illuminating questions about humanity's survival that most of us had never dared to contemplate. Think of what it must have meant to be Stephen Hawking in those final years, to possess one of the most brilliant minds in human history while watching your body become increasingly unresponsive to your will. His final broadcast interview occurred in October 2017, just months before his passing, discussing the detection of gravitational waves resulting from the collision of two neutron stars. Here was a man speaking about cosmic collisions, while his own life force was slowly colliding with mortality. Yet perhaps the most haunting aspect of Hawking's final period was how his warnings about human survival became increasingly urgent, as if he sensed that his own remaining time to deliver these messages was growing short. His final words to the world appeared posthumously in April 2018, in the form of a Smithsonian TV channel documentary entitled "Leaving Earth, or How to Colonize a Planet, Even in Death." Stephen Hawking was still teaching us how to survive among the stars. Consider the profound poetic justice of this timing, that a man who spent his career studying black holes and the death of stars should use his final months to speak about humanity's potential rebirth on other worlds. If Stephen Hawking was a star, he'd have gone out like a supernova, burning brightest just before the end, his final light carrying the seeds of new worlds across the cosmic dark. Picture Hawking in his Cambridge office during those last years, surrounded by equations that described the birth and death of the universe, yet increasingly focused on the much more immediate question of human survival. Physically confined to a wheelchair brought on by the progressive neurological disease, he revolutionized our understanding of black holes and the universe, all while living with ALS. The same condition that imprisoned his body somehow freed his mind to explore the furthest reaches of cosmic possibility. Think of the profound courage it required to spend your final years warning humanity about its potential extinction. Most people facing their own mortality turn inward, focusing on personal peace and private reflection. But Hawking turned outward, toward the cosmos, using whatever time remained to him to ensure that his species might have a future among the stars. Long after his own voice fell silent, Hawking had theories on topics from artificial intelligence to humans moving to other planets, and in his final months, these theories became increasingly urgent warnings. Humans must leave Earth in the next 100 years if we want to survive. This stark warning, issued in the months before his death, carried the weight of a lifetime spent contemplating cosmic scales and probabilities. But perhaps what makes Hawking's legacy so profound isn't just the warnings he issued, but the way he transformed our understanding of what it means to be human in an infinite universe. Here was a man who did most of his life's work while confined to a wheelchair, yet whose consciousness traveled further than any spacecraft humanity has ever built. He embodied the very possibility he advocated, the triumph of mind over physical limitations, the victory of human consciousness over the apparent constraints of matter and circumstance. Consider what Hawking's life teaches us about the potential resilience of human consciousness. When faced with seemingly impossible challenges, If a man could unlock the secrets of black holes while trapped in a failing body, then surely our species can learn to thrive among alien worlds. When faced with the failure of our home planet, his personal triumph over physical limitation became a metaphor for humanity's potential triumph over terrestrial limitation. The continuation of his work and warnings after his death speaks to something deeper than scientific legacy. It speaks to the immortality of ideas, the way human consciousness can transcend individual mortality when it touches upon cosmic truths. Students and colleagues around the world continue to explore the implications of his warnings, to refine his calculations about human survival, to work toward the space colonization he saw as our species' only hope. Stephen Hawking has cemented his place in humanity's collective memory, not just as a brilliant physicist, but as a prophet who dared to speak uncomfortable truths about our cosmic situation. His wheelchair became a chariot carrying him across the universe. His synthesized voice became an oracle warning us about futures we had never imagined. His failing body became the vessel for a mind that touched the infinite and returned with urgent news about our species' destiny. Think of the children being born tonight. As you listen to these words in the quiet darkness, they are entering a world where Stephen Hawking's warnings still echo through the halls of science, where his timeline for human survival continues to tick like a cosmic clock, where his vision of humanity among the stars remains both our greatest challenge and our most magnificent possibility. So, as you rest in Earth's familiar embrace tonight, remember that you are living in the afterglow of a cosmic prophet, a man who spent his final years gazing into the future and seeing both humanity's greatest peril and its most extraordinary transformation. Stephen Hawking's legacy isn't just his scientific discoveries or his warnings about extinction. It's his unwavering faith that human consciousness, however fragile its physical vessel, is capable of becoming something truly cosmic, something worthy of the infinite universe that awaits us among the stars. So, as you drift towards sleep tonight, carried by the gentle rhythm of our pale blue dots spinning through the darkness, remember that you are part of Stephen Hawking's vision, a species standing at the threshold of becoming something magnificent and cosmic, citizens not just of Earth, but of the infinite star-filled universe itself. His voice may have fallen silent, but his message continues to echo across the cosmos. We must leave, we can leave, and in leaving, we might discover not just survival, but our truest destiny among the stars. If this journey through Stephen Hawking's cosmic warning has stirred something within you, a sense of wonder, urgency, or hope for our species' future, consider subscribing to join us on more of these explorations into the deepest questions of existence. Until we meet again among the stars, sleep well and dream of the infinite possibilities that await us in the cosmos.